Hi and welcome to Taking the Biz. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at efficiency, how we might try and improve it, and we're going to really focus in on labour productivity. And we'll put a link in the top hand corner there to a video that shows you how to calculate the labour productivity of an organisation. But in this tutorial, we're going to concentrate on how we might try and improve that labour productivity. So efficiency is important. Firms want to try and be as efficient as they possibly can because efficiency affects costs. So if a firm can be more efficient, essentially what it means is that it can create its products and maintain the same quality standards that it has had previously, but now it can produce them cheaper. Efficiency is about minimizing the costs of producing one of your units of output. One way we can do that is through improving labour productivity. Labour productivity examines how much work we are able to squeeze on average out of each of our employees. And it makes sense, the more work we can get out of each of the member of staff that we've recruited, the lower our costs are going to be. We're going to get greater output from each of our workers. And if we're paying them per hour or per month, the more we can squeeze out of them, the more we can split their wages or their salaries across a greater level of output. So let's have a look at how we might try and improve that labour productivity. Well, one of the main ways might be through the investment in training. Maybe we can get employees to produce more per hour, more per day, more per month by improving their skills. If we can equip them with a greater skill level, maybe they can work faster, maybe they can get more done in a given time period. So by training our members of staff, we might be able to skill them up so that they can work on a more rapid basis, allowing us to get more work per day, per hour out of each of our employees. Now, another way that we might be able to do it is a little bit more canny. Maybe through redesigning people's jobs, we can actually free them up to be more productive and get more done in a given time period. Now, this might be particularly true in manufacturing firms. If they find a way of redesigning the physical mechanics of how people are doing their jobs by redesigning people's workstations, maybe redesigning the best way of completing a task, maybe even going back to some Taylorist principles, doing some time and motion studies, ascertaining the most efficient movements to complete a task, it might be that we can get people working quicker. If we can get them working quicker, then they will be able to bang out more units per given time period. So training and job redesign might be two ways that we can strike at the heart of labour productivity, get people getting more done in the same amount of time. Now, another way we might be able to do it might be to look at why people aren't getting more work done. Maybe people aren't working as fast. Maybe they're not producing as much as we deem physically possible. And that must be down to their motivation, to their willingness to produce work. So maybe another simple technique to increase the amount of work, the amount of output that we're squeezing out of our workforce per given time period is to look at motivation and to look at rewards. So maybe we can tweak or restructure the way we're motivating our staff. Maybe we could look at the way we're paying them. Maybe we could inject greater rewards into our production processes to give people greater stimulus to produce more. So maybe we feel our labour productivity is a little bit low because people aren't working as hard or as fast as they could be. To solve that, we'd have to look at our motivation, we'd have to look at our rewards. Final way we might be able to do it is maybe people aren't as productive as they could be because there's inefficiencies in the tools or the equipment or the technology that we're providing them with in order to do their job. So maybe people aren't working as fast or as productively as they could be because they're using outdated technology. Maybe it's technology that is slow, cumbersome, it frequently breaks, there's defaults in it. So maybe an investment in new technology, giving employees new machinery, new equipment, more efficient tools to do their jobs with, might increase how much output they are able to generate per hour or per day. So there we go, we've got some different techniques that in our answers we could discuss as possible vehicles to driving up the labour productivity of an organisation. However, if we want to write a really good answer, we'll know that improving labour productivity isn't quite as simple as just rolling out some measures of doing so. There might be difficulties with the implementation of each of these different ideas. So the one we'll start with is whether the ideas we're using to increase our labour productivity might actually drive up the organisation's costs. For example, if we're going to look at our motivation and our pay and our reward mechanisms, is that going to drive up the costs of the firm as we're having to provide financial incentives as a way of increasing labour productivity? Similarly, with training, that is probably going to come at a cost. Either we're going to have to lose man hours as we're taking workers off their production tasks in order to skill them up and train them, or it might even be that we have to pay for outside training providers to come into the organisation, or for employees to go and complete some off-the-job training at a training centre, or additional qualifications to help improve their productivity. All of these things may well come at a financial cost. Perhaps the biggest financial cost might even be the investment in new technology in order to try and increase the labour productivity. So there's a definite question mark. As we try to strive towards greater labour productivity, might we in the process drive up the firm's costs? Next thing we could look at is whether it might affect the quality of what we produce as well. So in trying to improve labour productivity, in trying to encourage workers to increase the amount of output they produce over a given time period, might we be encouraging them to work quicker, to produce more, but maybe to cut corners, maybe to produce at a lower level of quality? And so we have to ask the question, in trying to increase the productivity of our labour force, do we run the risk of damaging the quality of the end product that they produce? And if through improving our labour productivity we increase the number of defects, the number of faulty products we produce, or we lower the level of customer service that we're offering, it might be that we've increased labour productivity, but it's been to the detriment of our organisation. The other thing we might raise as a question mark is whether increasing labour productivity is actually something that would be warmly received by employees, or whether it might be something that's met with resistance. Now, if we're going to try and improve labour productivity and there's going to be some kind of financial incentive involved for employees, then it's possible that this might be a mutually beneficial process. The firm experiences greater levels of output per hour, per day, and employees financially benefit themselves. But if we're trying to increase labour productivity using other methods, maybe through the introduction of new technology, or maybe through the redesign of people's jobs, it might be that employees resist that. It might be something that they see that they're not directly benefiting from, that they are not monetarily achieving any extra gains from, and so it's plausible that they might resist the attempts the business is making to improve the labour productivity because they don't feel it benefits them in any way. And in fact, they're now having to work harder or work with new technology or a new design of job when they don't feel they're personally benefiting from it. So it may be something that's met with resistance and can damage the labour and management relations in the organisation. So there's how we improve labour productivity. Important to remember there might be difficulties with that as well. Important topic to revise for our A-level exams. Good luck with your exam preparation. Don't forget to keep on taking the biz.